yeah, I put my hand up and here we are with my wife and 2 kids.
How has the balance been with him being there and you being here?
It's okay. It's okay. We transitioned. So my wife's from Tasmania.
Okay.
Our business is in Queensland in
Okay.
Australia. We spent 18 months, my wife and I, in Tassie with her family before we came over. So we were kind of used to already me not being in the office. So that's worked all right. We just have our conversations each day and we email all the time and we know how each other works, so it goes okay. Like I was talking to him just as I walked in the door. So it's not a challenge really.
Working with your siblings, I feel like can be challenging. I think given that you're a male, it makes life a little bit easier. How do you two balance each other?
That's a good question. Well, we've always been close. So we don't I don't think we don't say this is work relationship and this is not brothers. We're always brothers.
Yeah.
So we work pretty well. We've got different roles. Like he's the designer, he's the art director. I've got the accounting sort of sales background. So he's kind of let me do my thing and I let him do his. And we don't step on each other's toes. So we just have full trust with each other and that's how it works. But we also, when we're making decisions, it's not like you're making a decision for an employee. You're also thinking about, he's my brother. How's this going to impact his life? So, yeah, it can be challenging, but you just got to work through it, talk.
Do you feel that having that relationship makes making harder decisions easier? Or do you feel like it makes it harder because there is a personal relationship that you have and there could be like an underlying fear of, I know males are a little bit different, but I feel like in those relationships, sometimes it can be hard to separate business and personal.
Oh, I think it can because he's like, you've always got you're always thinking, I guess. Or, you're thinking about how this affects his personal life and his family and, what he wants out of life might be different now to when we started the business. 14 years ago, we started as a partnership.
Yeah.
And things cruise along. Like we were both single when we started, and then now we've both got 2 kids, and there's life changes. So you've got to think about the now when you're making these decisions. Yeah.
14 years ago, why the wall art industry? 2 single men were just like, wow, my walls are looking really bare, and so here I am.
Well, we didn't start in walls. We started. Bryce is a graphic designer by trade, so he'd been in the UK. He'd been a couple of years in Spain, and he got home and back to Australia. He was looking for a job and didn't really, want what they were offering at the time. I guess he'd been a bit free-spirited cruising around in Europe. So he wasn't ready for a full job. So he became a freelancer graphic designer, was doing some ads, putting a magazine together for a girl we knew. And so I sort of said, righto, well, I think he needs my help. He's not going to be able to do this without me. So I came in with a bit of an accounting background and a sales background. I didn't have a job at the time. So I was like, right, I'll help him out. Wow. And that's how it sort of started. And then we ended up buying a printer for canvas prints, and we started doing canvas prints. So we were doing art reproductions and things like that. And it was just a business that was trying to get going. Like this isn't a money-making venture at this stage. We were just scraping by. And then someone said, can you do wallpaper? And we designed a brochure which had a wall mural in it. And it was, more of a page filler at the time. And Bryce thought it looked good. And that was where everybody was interested. So we then had to figure out how to do it. And that took a long time because wallpaper just wasn't off the shelf. This is how you make wallpaper, and especially digital wallpaper. And that was a while ago. That was before current inks and technology and all sorts of things. So it took a long time, a lot of research and testing, but we got there.
In the initial pivot, I think and this is something I talk a lot about on this podcast, you have an idea and entrepreneurs get emotionally attached to this idea. Naturally, you're passionate about it. Most entrepreneurs are naturally passionate, aggressive, assertive individuals. During that pivot and recognizing that the feedback from clients was in the wallpaper industry, what advice would you give someone going through that transition of you kind of started working on this thing, and although it wasn't making too much money, not holding on to it so tight and letting go of an opportunity that you all didn't see at that time?
It's a hard one. It's a hard one because there's a few ways to look at that. we're fortunate that we had no idea what we were doing, and we were completely naive.
Yeah.
Right. So you always, and it's like anyone starting a business, they are
Yeah.
naive. They look at the numbers and go, "Oh, I'm going to make a heap of money," but that's not how it pans out.
Yeah.
But we were fortunate that we were in Australia, where the market's tiny. We were in mum and dad's back shed, hiding away, trying to figure out how to do it. So we weren't in, we weren't out there saying this is how we're going to do it, and didn't raise a heap of capital and get
Yeah.
ready to change the world. We just started toiling away at how to do it.
Yeah.
And the first year, a few people bought some wallpaper. Half of it was a failure. It cost us more than, to produce it than we sold it for. But we figured that people were still willing to buy it. So there was something in it. So we kept going and we just sort of kept toiling away at it. And it took a long time before it starts to, it really sinks in that this is what you're doing and people are interested in it. And yeah, so it's taken a while. But and by saying that, like at least 5 years before you actually look at it and go, all right, maybe there's something in this, and you're invested in it. But yeah, it's a challenge, and we didn't have any cash, so we were bootstrapping the whole time, and that makes it. Well, I suppose that takes out the risk of making stuff ups because you haven't got a huge amount of money to stuff up anyway. So and then as time's ticking along, your ideas change, your research changes, the feedback changes, and then you'll sort of end up in this, I guess, like all new businesses, someone's trying to find they find their groove eventually. Yeah, it takes a bit of time.
5 years.
Oh, I don't even know if it was 5 years. It was probably longer than that before we were on the payroll.
How do you stay patient throughout 5 years?
That's a trick.
And keep
That's
going.
something you learn. That's something you learn. You got to learn to slow down. And
How?
Well, when we first started, like the idea was, and I sort of remember saying to Bryce, listen, we're never ever going to get rich out of one sale. All right, you've got to put it all together, and you've got to do lots and lots of sales to make it
You're
work.
the logical one. He's the dreamer.
I don't know. I think we're both pretty patient.
Yeah.
But yeah, but business isn't a race. Like it's not a let's get it happening straight away. And it's very easy to think that like it's all right, we're going to crack in and we're going to do this in year one. Well, that's not going to happen. You've really got to be in a position for slow growth or for just to find your own little path. Like, we were lucky. We didn't have any expenses.
Yeah.
We had very few. There was times where we'd go home, we'd have fries for dinner. Like we had $2 in the ashtray of the ute. That's what was paying for dinner. We didn't have any money. So, you learn to be patient. You learn to be patient.
The conversations always happen at the best time, but I think especially, and I know you just got here, but I feel like just the American culture is we're in the right now. It's like this immediate gratification. We want to see results immediately. I think social media has just glamorized that, but it's always so funny when I talk with entrepreneurs like yourself. They're like, it just takes time and to slow down. And I always ask the same question because how do you know when to go fast and how do you know when to go slow? I think is the hardest battle in entrepreneurship.
Well, that's not just an American thing. That's worldwide. No, in terms of the instant gratification, that's everywhere.
Yeah.
Social media does a really good job of making people impatient. When to speed up. I guess, a lot of, it really comes down to what the bank balance is saying a lot of the time, as to how heavy you can go in something. It's all about timing. It's all about timing. So, there's times where you want everything to happen straight away. You go, well, hang on, we've got a target in front of us at the moment. We've got to hit that and then we can go to the next thing. It'd be great to be one of these businesses that launched and sold for $10 billion, 24 hours later. Like it's never going to happen. So it's you just got to plan out. And when I'm not trying to be this serial entrepreneur that starts this, flips it, starts this. This is a career. So you've got to look at this and say, well, I want to retire out of wallpaper and I'm not planning on doing it just yet. So, it just, everything just takes a little bit longer. And it's like life. You don't want it all to happen once.
I always tell myself I think it comes with age, but it's funny because all my mentors are older and they've all built. I mean, even like talking with Waylon, like everyone always, and the first thing they say to me is like, you just need to slow down. Like the only person you're racing against is yourself. And I always take accountability. Like I'm not one to blame, but I do think social media kind of puts this expectation of like, oh, you need to build this and it needs to be this by this point. And it's like at the end of the day, most of these businesses pivot 4 or 5 times before they get, and we're going to get a little bit more to your story. But was there a point in that first 5 years that you look back on and were like, this moment was the breaking point for us staying along this line and keep moving in the right direction?
Listen, in the first 5 years, we were lucky we both didn't quit on the same day. That's pretty much what happened. It's probably longer than 5 years. You probably said 10 years. No, it's businesses, any business, especially when, and I guess it'd be really hard if I was just me. If it was just me making these decisions, going, what do I do here? Who am I going to talk to? But we've been lucky that we could just talk to each other.
Yeah.
And sometimes we agree, sometimes we didn't, but we just sort of push on. So, well, let's test it. Let's see what happens. And that's kind of how Milton and King came about, because we started off doing canvas prints, like we were, and then we got into the wallpaper, and we were doing custom digital wall murals and things like that, because they paid a lot of money, and it was, you could compete in that world at that time. I'll get more onto that later, I guess.
Yeah.
And then we sort of looked at it and said, all right, well, this isn't going to work. This isn't what we want our future to look like, doing one wall at a time. Someone rings up and says, oh, I've got this wall, and they've given you the measurements. You've made a mural for it. The guy goes out. The wall sizes are different. And we're never going to scale this business.
Yeah.
So, your business changes all the time. Well, in those early days.
Yeah.
And then you get onto something that actually works, and you've really got to teach yourself to slow down and say, I'm not getting sidetracked. Because it's very easy to get sidetracked as well and say, oh, these guys are doing this, and these guys are doing this, and we should be doing this. Like, they look like they're being successful. You've really got to, as boring as some products are, there's guys out there that make lots and lots of money doing it because it is boring, and they just keep doing it day after day and get better at it.
How did you know? What was the light bulb moment that you knew that you were onto something with Milton and King, and that's what you needed to stick to?
The light's probably getting brighter. I don't know if it's on. Well, no, it's on. It's on. It's always been on.
Yeah.
But,
like, was there a moment that you look back on and you're like, that is when we knew this is where we should focus our energy and our attention?
I remember when we just said we're going into wallpaper and we're going to ditch everything else. And we hadn't even sold a lot of it. We just said, right, we just need to concentrate 100% on this. And you got to go all in on these things.
Yeah. Take a risk.
Otherwise it's not going to work. Because if you've got to fall back, you fall back on it. So, we went all in for wallpaper. And that was probably fairly early on. That was probably, 3 years in, probably 2011. We sort of went all in on wallpaper. Yeah.
And since then, you have grown significantly, and you're in a lot of
Thank
big.
God.
The risk paid off. You're in a lot of property, property. I can't talk. Property Brothers, new home featured in Elle Decor. You're touching all the big names. What do you attribute that success to?
Doing it every day.
He eats, sleeps, and breathes wallpaper.
No. Now we've got a team of people too.
Yeah.
It's not a big team. We really pride ourselves on being a small team.
Mm-hmm.
There's 13 people in Milton and King across 3 continents. So, like, for the amount of wallpaper we produce, we're probably batting above the average.
Yeah.
But we've got a guy who's good at outreach, and we put ourselves out there as we're open to. You can come and talk to us. We're happy to talk to people and listen to projects that they might be doing, whether that be a photographer who's doing a shoot or whatever. We're open for communication, really.
Yeah.
So we like to know what people are doing, and if they want to use our product, that's even better. So we help them out that way. So we are. We're everywhere, but we're not. If that makes sense. Like it's nice to see your product in magazines. But I don't really even buy magazines. So I end up with friends saying, oh, you're in this. And I'm like, all right, cool. But that's not what drives me. I don't get driven on getting my stuff in magazines.
What does drive you?
Oh, I don't know. That's a good point. That's a good question. Well, I guess
Financial?
no. Well, I think that comes later. Like you start off, it's financial because we started off, we didn't have any money. Like,
Yeah.
it was like, right, we need some income.
Mhm.
So then it's like, all right, how do we go and get it? And then that fades because you find something you actually want to do and you get a bit passionate about it. And then the money doesn't really matter. So like I lived at home on and off for years and lived in share houses and I didn't have any cash but it didn't really worry me because I
Yeah.
knew what I was happy doing the day to day. Yeah, it's what drives me. I don't know. I guess I want to see how big it can go. Like it started in a little shed in rural Queensland. It'd be nice to see what we can do with it.
Did you have a vision of what you thought it would be like, and is it very similar to that vision that you had?
It's probably getting closer.
Okay.
It's probably getting closer. I always thought that doing digital wall coverings, we could have multiple factories and be more flexible to the market, and rather than just be one big factory somewhere and sending product everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So we're getting closer to achieving that, which is exciting.
I have a lot of young entrepreneurs or people that want to be entrepreneurs that listen to this podcast. What advice would you give someone that is starting a venture that's in a similar situation as you? There's not a lot of money. We have this idea. I don't know what to do next.
No, that's a challenge. I try not to give out too much advice because everyone's in a different position.
What would you tell your younger self?
Oh, I don't know. Like a few years ago, I probably would have said, don't do it because it is really hard. Like if you're really starting something and you're bootstrapping and you haven't got any cash and it's one hurdle after the other, it's hard. And especially if you are like, we started in our 20s, which we were very fortunate that we did that. And, life in your 20s is different to life in your 40s. So, it's a hard one. I've really got to look at it and say, all right, well, how do you do it? I don't know. Everybody's a bit different. But you've really got to be in a position where you don't have to, like we were still living out of the business. We didn't have any income from anywhere else, but we just had very little income. So you miss all the parties, you miss the weddings, you miss all of that because you're on your little path.
Yeah.
So our 30s are probably different to a lot of my friends' 30s. You know what I mean? So, but now in your 40s, you got friends that probably look at you and go, "Oh, look at the size of that business. Man, it's grown." Mm-hmm. But it's just been from hard work. So if you're starting out, you've got to be prepared that it's not going to happen quickly. And if it does, you're one of those lucky ones.
Yeah.
But if you're making something and trying to, like we're probably a bit different to a lot of people. We actually make our product and then we're selling it direct to the consumer. We're not an e-commerce business that's just pulling something out of China and chucking it on Amazon and doing all of that. Well, there's plenty of guys that make lots of money doing that. But we've got complete control over everything. Like we're designing it, we're manufacturing it, we're then actually, selling it direct. So we've got a marketing team, an e-commerce team, we've got a manufacturing team, all within 13 people. It's hard. So,
and you're in all of these doing all these things.
Well,
how does this work?
Having a good team.
That every entrepreneur says that, yeah.
Well, yeah, but you've just got to, you've just got to have a vision and you just got to work towards it. And if you're doing something every day, it's working towards it. So I don't know. And you question, what advice do you give to young people? I don't know. Like if you're going to start something, you've really got to be prepared to put in some work. And I think there's a difference between a lot of people who have an idea, they're going to do this, the gunner people, and the people that just do it. And, if you're going to talk about something and you actually want to achieve it, you've got to start doing it. And I'm not saying that, well, we have obviously kept doing it. We're here 14 years later, but it's not an easy task. That's why everybody doesn't do it.
What kept? I know.
What kept us going?
How do I ask this question a little differently? What kept you going? Because
you get too far in debt to get out of it. That's probably one way. Like there's times where you go, this isn't working, and we're drowning. but you're too far in. Like,
Yeah.
we had some loans that you can't pay them back with a job, so you gotta hook in and figure out how to make it work.
Did you ever raise capital?
No, no, but we've managed to find a friendly bank manager at one stage that
Hmm.
gave us some cash. But yeah, it's hard. Loans, begged, borrowed, and didn't steal, but begged and borrowed.
Looking back, would you have done? I'm in the VC world now, so I'm like super curious to get. Would you have done things differently and gone out to raise capital, or do you feel like what you did worked for your business and the longevity that you wanted to have?
Oh, well, I think it's hard. Like if we'd raised a heap of cash, even 5 years ago, you haven't got the reach and the revenue to
Hmm.
pay it back. There's the guys give you money, they want something back at some stage.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Right. So,
Uh-huh.
and then that's that added pressure on top of you. So
Yeah.
we've been lucky that we've been able to grow. We've been able to grow our manufacturing side as our sales grow, and then the sales are where the money comes from. So you put a bit more into marketing, you put a bit more into manufacturing. Yeah, it's I think venture capital is a fantastic thing depending on what the product is.
Hmm.
You've only got to look at the news at the moment and all these direct to consumer brands that have gone bust because they got valued at $1 billion and didn't have any revenue. Like, where's that coming from? And I
Yeah.
don't want to get on a rant or anything,
Yeah.
but I
No,
think
I don't disagree.
that's how they come
Yeah.
undone. So there's the right time and place for venture capital, and that's when everything might be. What we're probably at a position now where we'd be better off to take a heap of cash because
Yeah.
we know what we're doing. We could scale it. We've
Mhm.
got a bit of reach. We've got some revenue. Going back a few years ago, that would have been a lot harder.
Yeah. It's always hard to know, and that's my day job is I help entrepreneurs get access to funding, but I'm always curious because I think we're in the similar mindset of like bootstrapping, kind of just making it work along the way until you're at a point. And I think there's a large group of people who have an idea and they think it's going to go to the moon. They go out and they raise capital, and then to your point, they're like, "Oh,
Didn't
I
work. What do I
yeah,
do now?"
exactly." And so I don't think that you can really disagree with that like hustle grind that you and your brother put in to be like, hey, we actually have something that has revenue. It's working in the market. And then at that point, it's like no one can really argue with the numbers and the data that's literally right in front of you.
Yeah, it's a challenge. Like it's always a challenge. Doesn't matter what you're
Yeah.
doing. You've got to get it to the point where it's actually profitable. It doesn't matter how much revenue you got if you're not making any money.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm sitting here, because one of our big hurdles from Australia was that it's miles away. So our biggest market being the US, we had a big international freight cost. We print everything on demand. We used to ship it direct from Brisbane to the consumer somewhere sitting in their house in the US. And that was expensive. So coming over here, we got rid of that freight bill. And we're now in the market rather than being an importer into the market.
Yeah.
So and we've only been here 6 months. So here you are 14 years later, you're still trying to implement things to make it all work. And we're not going to stop now. You're still implementing things all the time.
Yeah.
And you don't, everything changes as you cruise along. You don't see this 14 years ago.
Were you shocked that your biggest market was in the United States?
No. Well, it's where the consumers are. So you put something online like we did. When we put Milton King, we went online with our online store. Well, that's where all the inquiry came from, was from the US, because that's where they were finding us. And the Australian wallpaper market's pretty small.
Yeah.
So yeah, the inquiry started to come. It was like, how do we service these guys? I spent a lot of time on night shift answering phones that were diverted to me sitting in the dark, either sitting in the office or sitting at home.
Yeah.
The alarm used to go off at 1:45 in the morning, and I'd get out of bed and answer phone calls and answer the chat, the online chat. Well, we don't use a robot. We're sitting there talking to them. So, yeah, tricky. So we got rid of that. Now I get out of bed at normal time, which is nice.
Wow. It's so interesting. And you see a lot kind of along the lines of pivot, but it's like you launch this product, and I've had multiple mentors tell me, like, you launch something, the feedback is always different than kind of what you had in mind, and how can you cater more to that audience. Was there anything shocking or any challenges that you had to overcome that were completely and totally just unexpected given what you knew from doing it for so long?
No, we were pretty in terms of our product.
Yeah.
Our product's been we spend a lot of time getting our product right.
Yeah.
And we don't offer 1,000 products. We have really one product with a lot of design SKUs.
Mhm.
So we got our base paper right and our techniques for printing right the way we wanted it. Right? And there's plenty of products you could use out there and plenty of printers you can use out there. But we just had a combination that we were happy with. Right. So that and we did a lot of testing with installers, and we put paper up everywhere and did all sorts of things. But once we signed off on that, we knew we had a good product. So that was, you can just put that to bed, right? We're happy with that. We shouldn't have any stuff ups unless it's a human error in the factory. We're not sending out faulty product.
Yeah.
So we've got a really good supplier, and then we've got a good ink supplier. So it just works. But then in terms of other hurdles, well, there's always other hurdles, but at least there's not the hurdle with the product.
Yeah.
Early days, it was.
Yeah.
Because like there was no wallpaper. Like it took a lot of time to, you couldn't even buy a wallpaper base in Australia when we started printing wallpaper. We were using a different product that was for something completely different, but we were sticking it on the wall and it seemed to work.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and that's when the installers used to ring up and say, these panels are a different length and this one's a different color and this doesn't work. And, and that happened quite a bit.
Were you the one installing the wallpaper at first?
No. We use professionals.
Okay. I was going to say, he does it all. What do you think the biggest mistake, and you guys really niched down and focused on one product with multiple different SKUs, which I think is huge. Do you feel that is one of the biggest mistakes that young entrepreneurs make, is not niching down to one specific thing and specializing? Or do you feel you can do a lot of different things well when starting a business similar to y'all?
Well, I think you've got to have the one, just to simplify things, depending on what it is.
Yeah.
Obviously. We started off, we had a heap of different options, and we used to show people lots of options when we were doing a lot of custom stuff. But we just found that it just bamboozled people. Yeah. And they didn't really need that. All those, if someone rings up and says, "Oh, I want a texture and I want this," well, that's all right, but we can't do that. We can't make it commercially viable to have that kind of texture just for you. You know, so you've just got to, you can't please everybody. And that's the other thing to remember. You're not trying to beat everybody in the market. You just got to try and find a little niche of what you're offering and find those people that want to buy it.
How do you overcome that mindset of not trying to please everyone?
Don't know.
You're doing it great.
No, you want to please everybody, but you've also got to be a realist.
It's not unrealistic. Yeah.
Yeah. So and you've also got to, you're not going to go out there and compete with the big boys that have been doing it for hundreds of years either. So you've really got to find your niche and say, right, this is what we're doing. We're well known for this, and we're going to push as hard as we can and tell everybody about it.
I think the hardest part is overcoming someone's already doing it, or this market is saturated, or my idea is similar to something else. How did you not let that get in your runway?
Well, we didn't have anybody else doing it. We were the only ones crazy enough to bloody try.
Bloody try. There's the Australian in them.
Sorry.
But coming into the American market, like now that you're here, you have your clients. There's a lot of different wallpaper. So I'm sure there's been times, maybe I'm assuming here, that you've run into competition. And how do you stay laser focused on what you're doing and not let what other people are doing impact your decisions in your business?
Well, yeah, there's competition everywhere, and we'd be sharing the same clients. If you're an interior designer, you're not going to just use one product. You're using product from everybody, depending on what the project is. but our focus is on, and then we've got a lot of retail clients. So they might do 1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms, bathroom, but then you don't see them for a decade.
Yeah.
So how do you stay focused? Well, you just got to keep on the path, really. It's a big market out there, and you just got to keep pushing. We want to be a household name. Like I spoke to a guy this morning who was an installer, and I said, "Did you ever heard of us before?" He said, "No, but I have now." So, that's the thing. Like, you just got to keep going.
Is that you just kind of mentioned your goal is to be a household name?
Yeah, I'd like it. Not in, I don't want to be, Chev. But in the wallpaper world,
Yeah.
An interior designer, if someone's looking for wallpaper, wouldn't it be great to have a brand where they call it like Hoover in the UK? It's a vacuum cleaner. That's the brand name. It's like, what else? We were talking about this the other day with something. Where your brand is associated with that.
Like Amazon. You're like, oh, I'm just going to order this on Amazon or whatever. Yeah.
So, it'd be nice if people thought wallpaper, they just thought, oh, just Milton and King it. Or
yeah, exactly.
they don't even think about the competition. Wouldn't that be nice? So that'd be good if we get to there.
I mean, I can't, until I spoke with Waylon, I had not, but I'm also not, I know nothing about interior design. If you walked into my apartment, you would be like, oh, does a boy live here or a girl live here? So I have no idea, but I'm sure if I asked my mom, she would have a list of wallpaper.
But most people don't.
Okay.
Like, you don't know wallpaper brands. I didn't know any until I was like, none of my friends know a wallpaper brand apart from mine.
Yeah.
So it's not, you don't walk in and you don't necessarily think about a wallpaper brand. It's like tapware or stuff, it's not something you're thinking about. So yeah, to be a well-known, it's not for everybody. It's not, I don't expect everyone walking down the street to know who Milton King is. It's just, if you're in the interior design business, it'd be nice if you knew who we were.
Yeah. It's kind of like paint. Like painters, there's like one brand that they go to, or
like, what brand of paint is that? Well, no one knows. It's just a cream on the wall.
Yeah, exactly. I like that. I don't often have people in here that are from another country. What's the biggest challenge that you've had to navigate coming to the beloved United States of America, in terms of business or personally?
Well, business, we've been selling into the US for a long time. Mm-hmm. So you kind of get a bit of a handle on that from a distance. Yeah. So that's not as big a.
Are we harder or easier to deal with? That's really my question, than Australians. Or what do you feel that there's a difference in clientele? Well, in the way we approach buying?
For us, as wallpaper, the Australian market is if you tell someone you make wallpaper in Australia, they go, "What? Is that in?" Do people still do that? Like, it's a like, that's not a thing.
Wow.
So, yes, we're much more open in the US to wallpaper. So that's a lot easier.
Yeah.
I've also got an accent which probably keeps people on the phone. Like, what's this guy doing? I want to hear what he's about. So that's probably a positive. Personal life, moving. Like, we moved with a 12-week-old. So,
wow.
Yeah, that was challenging, and it still is. So we've got 2 daughters. So Felicity and I, we packed up 12 weeks, 3 months old, and we're on the plane. So, and we've got a 3-year-old who she just turned 3 the other day. So 3 and 1 now. That's been challenging. And, you get here with a suitcase and you're in an Airbnb. You're like, what do we do next? Like, everything's different. It smells different. The kids are freaked out. We all got sick on the plane. So it takes a bit to settle everybody down.
Wow.
But now you get into that. It's just day to day. You get used to it quite quickly.
I also feel like Dallas is a very welcoming place. I feel like
it is.
You chose.
Yeah.
How did you choose Dallas?
Well, originally we chose Austin.
Oh.
In 2017. So we've had an office in America since 2017 or 16.
Startup capital of Texas is right there in Austin.
Yeah, and we pretty much went off that. Like, everyone was moving to Austin at the time, so like, right, well, that sounds like a good spot. And we also chose Texas because it's very similar to Queensland in terms of climate and people, and it's friendly and it's easy to get around. And I didn't want to move to the States and have to buy a snow shovel. You know? Like,
I
that's I've never had that in my life. I didn't want it now. So, so you got to move to where you can function and do your day to day easily. And then obviously Texas it was nice and central for sending samples, sending products. So if you're going to put a factory, why not put it in the middle?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what we've done. But I like Texas. I like Dallas. Like we drove up from Austin, Felicity and I, and we had a cruise around the design district and went, this is where we need to be. Like this is the spot for us.
Okay, we're going to get back on track here. 14 years is a long time, not just, doing one business, like you said, it takes time. What's been the biggest challenge or biggest challenge to you personally over the last 14 years dealing with this business?
Personally, that's a pretty good question. You
like
mean
personally
within the business as the boss?
Something that you didn't, whether it's something that you didn't think you knew about yourself, but you feel that this business really challenged you in this way.
Well, before I started, I didn't have a clue. So I've been challenged quite a lot for 14 years. There's been lots. There's been lots of things because you don't.
We need examples.
Oh, that's hard. I guess a good example is with Bryce. Right? Bryce was a graphic designer, and his world's been a bit different to mine in terms of, mine's numbers and it's a bit easier for me to figure out numbers.
Yeah.
But Bryce, as the designer, he was also head of everything. So when it came to building a website, he built the first one. We didn't know how to build a online shop. So we sort of navigated through that. And Bryce did all of that. But for years after, it was like, I need a marketing guru. I need an e-commerce guru. And I'm like, well, we can't afford one. And I don't think that person exists. Because anyone that walks in and says, I'm an e-commerce guru, well, he just got outdated as he said it. Like it changes so quickly.
Yeah.
And so eventually something just clicked and he went, right, well, I just need to become the e-commerce guru. So he just studied and figured out and what do we need to do. And he really toiled away at doing that to where he's now put himself in as he's more of an e-commerce person than a graphic designer. So that's been a big one for him, I guess. For me, I've just kind of, I've just learnt a lot more along the way in terms of, we have 3 registered companies across the UK, the US and Australia. So there's a lot of, everybody does things differently.
Yeah.
You look at tax and bank accounts, like there's a challenge. Getting a credit rating in the US, they don't look at my credit rating in Australia. Just things like that you don't even think about.
Things,
yeah. My credit card, I can't even go on a holiday. Can't even hire a car with it. My balance isn't high enough. So, all that, they're challenges, but they're overcome in time. You got to be patient.
That's one thing I quickly learned. I never really understood. And this is just, I'm also naive. I'm young. But what I never understood when my mentor would always tell me, like, it's hard, Erin, like being an entrepreneur is hard. I never really understood it. But now that I'm going through it myself, I understand the amount of little things that add up that you have to overcome just to get something out the door. And now I recognize when people are like, if you're going to do it, you just need to do it, because the more you think about it, you're not going to end up doing it, because there's so many little things. Like a lawyer, you need to set up an LLC, you have to pay for this. It just like keeps on adding up. And then you get to there and you're like, to your point, am I making any money? Because 9 times out of 10, what you have in your mind in this vision isn't going to generate revenue. Or it is, but you're not, there's a break-even point that you're not going to surpass.
Well, you've got to have an end target. You've got to see the goalposts and work towards it. So there's every financial year comes in. Do we make any money? So you've got to look at where you are today compared to where you were yesterday, and that's the same with someone's personal life. And you as long as you're getting better at it and you're still in business, well, happy days.
Yeah. You seem to be very level-headed when it comes to just taking the next step, but I think it's easy for people to get overwhelmed or to feel overwhelmed. How have you broken that down for yourself and not allowing that feeling of overwhelm to stop you from taking action?
I think I'm a lot better at not getting. I don't try and micromanage everybody for starters.
Yeah.
Right? So, and I give 100%. Righto, you're going to take this over. I don't want to know about it. Unless there's an issue and we need to work on something, but I don't really want to know about it. So, And that's very hard to do. And
Yeah.
especially when you start something and you're handing it over to somebody else, that can be challenging. But if you start to look at everything, you just get so bogged down you'd never get anything done.
Yeah.
So you've got to really look at, all right, well, I'm just going to step away from this bit and focus on what I'm trying to do. And it can be challenging because you can end up, this thing probably needs your help and you're not there until it all sort of falls apart and you go, right, I should have given it a bit more attention. But, it's a bit of a juggle. Yeah, it's a bit of a juggle. But, yeah, it's just knowing what you've got to do, and you got to head towards that target. You got to find the target. You got to picture it, what you want, where am we going to end up, what are we trying to do, and work it back. And then make a bit of a timeline and how it's all going to happen and what steps are involved, and just start stepping it out, because you can't just jump to it. You've got to step it out. So, yeah, that's kind of how I do it. But I've got people that are, I've got a really good small
You make it
team.
sound so easy.
No.
Like, I don't think it's this easy.
I probably skim over and summarize it a bit too much.
The vision. I think a lot of people have a vision and they have something that they think that they know that they want. And I agree with you. Break it down. I do that with every episode. What's my end goal? How can I get there? But as you said at the beginning of this episode, it turns out far different. How do you close that gap between this vision and this thing that you have and your North Star, but not attaching too much to that so that you're not pivoting or losing sight of what's working in front of you, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I suppose it does. It does. Mathematics. Can I say mathematics?
He's an accountant at heart.
No. It's just
Yeah.
You've got to be realistic about whether or not you're going to get to that goal.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got to add up.
Yeah.
Right? If it doesn't add up, well, then what are we doing? Like, I've got artists. We work with artists from all over the world.
Uh-huh.
And they sort of go, right, I want to make this much money and I want to design wallpaper. And especially we do a lot of in Australia, we do contract printing where we help, you might have a wallpaper collection and you want to offer it to the market, and this is what you're going to do. And we have people come to us and they say, all right, well, this is what I'm going to sell it for. I'm going to make this much money per roll, and this is how much I want to do. And I there's been times where I've said, all right, how much money do you want to make? Like, how realistically, what do you think you're going to make out of this? And work it back. And they go, oh, right, okay. So you're going to have to dominate the world on day one to make the kind of money that you think you're going to make. Like, you've got to be realistic about where we're going to end up. So, yeah, I guess it's just, looking at it and making sure your actual goal is achievable. It can't just be pie in the sky.
But I think that pawns the question of, like, how do you know what's realistic? I think you have to be a bit of a dreamer to be an entrepreneur.
Oh, you do.
Have an unrealistic. So I think it's coming into that balance of, like, okay, I have this vision and I want to get there and I know it's going to go left, right, and center, but not letting it go so far off course, or not letting, or holding on to one idea. Like, said you guys held on to these canvas or whatever, the thing that you were doing initially, you never went to wallpaper. It's like you would have lost out on a huge opportunity, but you all saw the opportunity in wallpaper.
Right. Yeah. And and that was also because there was no one doing wallpaper at the time. We did find out there was a guy down the road, 3 hours down the road, making hundreds of thousands of canvas prints each month. He pretty much had the market sewed up. So we went, right, well, that's a bit of a dead end.
Yeah.
So that did help us
decide.
All right. And there was more interest from us personally in wallpaper than there was in canvas prints. Canvas prints, we just sort of ended up as a bit of more of a, how do we make some money? Let's try this. But wallpaper ended up being a passion, because canvas prints are, I just think wallpaper's a nicer product for starters. But if you're going into someone's home, especially if you've designed a product and someone's willing to put that in their house and they want to live with what you've designed and produced, that's a good thing. That's a big thing.
Yeah.
So it's nice. That's a nice result out of a product. Oh yeah, I'm willing to put this in my bedroom and sleep with it every night. So that's a much, that's a good.
You had there's more passion behind that for you. And I feel like passion they always say if it's something that you're passionate about, you're not going to stop doing it. And I feel like for most entrepreneurs, that's true because of how hard it is. It's like if you're not passionate about this thing or only chasing
Oh, yeah,
money.
you've got to be right into it. Well, if you're chasing money, you might as well just go get a job. It'd be easier. Like, it'd be consistent. You get paid.
Elaborate on this. The honesty, I like it.
Well, no, but most entrepreneurs, like, it's up and down, and you know, if you're doing it for the money, well, you want to have a, you know,
Most young people though, that's they're so driven by money, and that's why I'm like keep talking about it, because I think it's important for young people to understand is that when you go, even people starting podcasts like, oh, I just want to make money. I'm like, that's just not it. Like Spider will tell you, anyone will tell you, like if this is what you're going into to make money, it's not going to be successful. And for some reason, people keep doing the same thing over and over again.
Well, it's well, when you haven't got any money, that's the first thing you need is some money. So that's you know, that's, I can understand why people want to do it to make money. I too was in that position. No, it becomes a passion thing.
Yeah.
And it'll probably start that way. If you're lucky enough, it can start that way. But you got to be really passionate about what you're doing. Otherwise, it makes it hard to get out of bed. Yeah. Yeah. And especially when you're getting out of bed for no cash. Yeah. You know, when your staff make more money than you do, you're like, right, well, you know, it can be unmotivating if you didn't enjoy what you were doing.
I'm like, yeah. And not only that, I feel like you just pour your heart and your soul into something, and it's like there's just so much risk involved. What advice would you give for young people on risk? Like, are you someone that you feel is super likes to take a lot of risks? Or are you more risk adverse? I'm going towards more risk adverse based off of this conversation.
Well,
but then naivety at a young age, I feel like that risk got you here. So maybe I'm wrong.
We're pretty heavy on the risk, obviously, because here we are on the other side of the planet. It's pretty risky. You know, I packed a bag. We didn't have, when we first went to Austin, you know, we didn't have, the market in Australia wasn't growing enough for us to actually survive. Yeah. And I remember having a conversation with the accountant and said, we're meant to be hitting this target before we go. And I'm like, well, we're not going to hit it unless we do go. Yeah. We came over, we were very, very broke. A job would have been helpful, but you know, we survived through it, and but it's just a challenge. But that's all risk. Like it's all but Bryce and I kind of look at it that, you know, we started with nothing, so what's the worst that can happen? You know what I mean? So we've been all in for a fair while.
That's a hard mindset sometimes to teach, is like this fear of, my mentor said this, he's like, you don't really feel failure. And I'm like, well, when you, to your point, like when you start it and it's nothing, it's like, what's the worst case? I'm going to end up at nothing. This is kind of where I started. So there's no.
Can't go backwards.
Yeah, exactly. Can't go to the negatives in this industry. So. Yeah. Over the next 3 to 5 years, where do you see this business going?
3 to 5.
Where do you hope it would go?
Not really. Well, I hope it stays on its current, growth. And we're getting a bit of momentum. Obviously, we're getting momentum now in terms of, I think someone referred to us as a Dallas brand the other day, so that's pretty cool. Yeah. We've got an American-made product now, which is great. So, in terms of the States, I feel like we've just got here. And we're just starting, and we're just starting with a lot of things. Yeah. So really, you can sort of look at this new change as a ready to go. Like I've got a new team; they haven't been around for 14 years with us. So we've got an Australian team and the US team, and they're all new. So that's all, getting all of that happening, and in 3 to 5 years, I think we'll be a lot bigger. Yeah. Hopefully, I'm hoping that we're a lot better known within the industry. Mm-hmm. We're going to branch into a few new products, so that'll help. And just continue to be, doors open and talking to people. Yeah,
I love it. A few more for you. What's the best piece of advice that you've ever gotten in your entrepreneurial journey?
Best piece of advice. I heard one the other day that said you can only coast downhill. I thought that was pretty good.
You can only coast downhill?
You can only coast downhill, as in you can't just sit back and cruise unless you're going downhill.
Oh,
yeah.
I like that one.
Yeah, I've had a pretty busy 12 months and I was kind of thinking a bit of time coasting would be nice, but
No,
now's the
you're
time to
going
put the
only
foot down.
Yeah. That was speaking to you directly.
Yeah, that was speaking to me. So, best piece of advice, I don't know. Like everybody's got different. Like everyone has a different path and advice. But I know when you're in it as as a starting entrepreneur, and I've been talking to a friend in Tassie who's starting off a business at the moment. And he's like, oh, if I had this and I remember being in that exact same position. Yeah. You think, all right, if I can get this, I can then do this and I can do this. And those things are right, but you probably, when you're in it, you put too much weight on that. You really got to figure out, how do I get the revenue? And then I'll figure out how to get the product made or whatever else. Like you just got to get the actual sales, and then the rest kind of can fall into place as long as you do your work and you figure it out properly.
That's someone told that to me. They're like, the only thing you need to focus on is the sales, and then you can control everything else. And I was like, that's truth to anything.
To a degree. To a degree. You've got to be able to understand when it's going to add up. So yes, this will do for a while until I can do this, and this revenue is going to allow me to do this. But yeah.
I've had a few people on that said fast growth can also be the death of your business. And so I think that's something that I've always kept in the back of my mind. It's like sometimes you're always chasing these sales, but at the same time, it's like you could get to a place where it's like you might not be there, whether it's in terms of production or manufacturing. It's like you're shooting too far and then you can't back in. So it's like understanding, controlling that supply and demand, especially if you're obviously in a product-based business like you are.
Yeah, you run into all those issues with supply and manufacturing.
Especially in this COVID world where I feel like everything is delayed and this is happening. And
yeah, there's nothing worse than telling someone that's bought your product that you can't fill an order and giving their money back. It's been hard enough to get their money in the first place.
Yeah,
so
yeah, exactly.
You don't want to be doing that.
You're going back downhill on that one. Okay. How has your idea of success changed over the course of the last 14 years?
Well, everybody's idea of success is different.
Yeah.
And everybody puts it back to money.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether that's where I'm putting it or not. I think money would be nice because everything becomes a bit more comfortable.
Yeah.
But I'm happy with my day today at the moment. Like I rent a house, I drive an ordinary car. It's not a big, I'm quite happy with my day today. So in terms of success, I'd like to have probably more, down the track, I'd like to have more time, probably a better balance between my work and my home life, and be able to do, and it's not too bad at the moment, but I'd like it to be a whole lot better.
Yeah.
We're still in the day-to-day grind. Like I can't take a holiday and do those things. That'd be nice.
Yeah.
So, I'd like to be there. Like at the moment, I struggle to get the right amount of exercise and all those things because you're torn between work and home and all those types of things. So it's success probably looks at where all those things are a bit more even and you can achieve what you actually want to achieve without feeling that you're being pulled one way or the other.
I forget who said this, but it was maybe like Gary Vee or some other. There's no such thing as balance. You're either giving up some family time for work or it's the opposite. And it's just knowing when to lean into what and being okay with leaning that direction. And I thought it was perfect because I think so many people are like, how do I find balance? And I'm like, there's no true such thing as balance. Like there's no even weight. It's just a give and a take and a compromise and knowing when to go where. And kind of back to the initial, like when to go fast and like when to press the pedal and then when to maybe back off and take more time for yourself and recover. Yeah,
that's a challenge. Balance is a hard one. Yeah. It's a hard one. Like my wife will tell you that I just talk about work. And that's hard because you're thinking about work.
Yeah.
and I'm not thinking about the weekend's fishing trip because that's not what I'm doing. Like I'm
Yeah.
thinking about work. So
Yeah.
and I talk out loud too much. So my wife's like, you don't need to tell me this before we go to bed that whatever the issue is on your mind. Like,
Yeah.
so there's not just the balance of being home, but actually being present.
Yeah.
That's
you
the
were
big
telling
one.
me.
All right. So I'm never present. I'm getting better at being present,
Yeah.
but
That is my number. I'm reading a book. You need to read it. It's called The Power of Now. I don't know if you've ever read it. I forget who the author is. Eckhart Tolle. Hopefully I'm saying that right. Tolle? Okay. And it's all about presence. And I think every entrepreneur can resonate with that because we're so forward thinking. It's like we're solving the problem that's 2 months down the road or however far along. And it's hard to come back in the moment and be like, okay, this is where I am. I'm grateful for these. So,
or it's yesterday's problem that still hasn't been fixed. So that's always a challenge.
And it's a blessing and a curse. And I literally had this conversation earlier, but I was like, my mind is always moving and it's hard to slow it down. Sometimes like you're just always like on a spin wheel. Like I'm the little animal that's just running. And when people are like, it's okay, slow down. I'm like, I don't know what that means. Like it's hard to slow down and be present. So I'm glad that you said that.
Well, you're going to learn that because
says everyone. They're like, you're going to learn it the hard way.
Yeah, well, I think you've got to. Otherwise,
yeah,
your body and your mind won't take it.
Yeah,
that's
I learned that.
Yeah, that's the
I think that's my lesson this week is slow down. Stop working out so much. Stop doing all of this. I want you to pimp yourself out for the audience. So market yourself. Where can people find you if they are interested in your product? I have a lot of friends that just bought houses. So where can they find you? Decorations, give it to us.
MiltonandKing.com.
Okay.
And we have a showroom at 900 Dragon Street in the Dallas Design District.
Okay.
And we're open to the public and we're open to trade. So everybody's welcome. Depending on what time of day, you might get a beer or a coffee.
What?
We do residential and commercial wall coverings. We've got 1,700 different designs.
Wow.
So we've got two different base. Well, we've got a commercial base and a residential base. But the residential base can also be used in commercial applications. So come and see us. We're a friendly bunch most of the time.
Are you there every single day?
Oh, well, I try to be. I'm meant to be. Let's say that. I'm meant to be.
But is the office open like every single day?
No, yeah. We're 5 days a week.
5 days a week, Monday through Friday?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll put all of this in the show notes. Thank you so much for being on, but I have one last question. What are you grateful for today? It's the last question I ask every single person.
What am I grateful for today? Well, this morning I'll have to say my wife today.
Okay.
And I'm going to say that because this morning we were having breakfast or coffee this morning, and I said, all right, I need to talk about work and don't get mad. So, and she gave me a good hour and sent me out the door with the right attitude. So I'm grateful for her support today. Well, I'm grateful for her support most days. Like to bring your two kids to the other side of the planet with no support.
Yeah.
Outside, the two of us, it's challenging. So, yeah. She gets more grateful.
That is very good. And I'm going to say I am grateful for my community of people around me, especially here in Dallas. I feel like as I'm transitioning to Austin, I'm like getting sad. I'm like, wow, I'm going to miss all my friends and all my connections. But thank you so much for being on.
Thank you.
You were amazing.